How do you square the circle of making cost savings yet being innovative to an industry that appears to be naturally conservative, or is the industry changing and becoming more open to new ideas?
Example, I do a lot with flexible pipes, right? And in that industry, it's very, very advanced technology and very heavy on the research side. So constantly you have operators that come in, they never want to be the first. You know, they always have this natural resistance from being the first to trying it, from being the first one to using that technology, more from a level of risk, and I think they associate that as well with potentially higher expenditure. Because for them to be comfortable to use that new technology, they're probably going to need some type of qualification testing or some additional inspections, and it is going to drive their cost up. So in certain parts of the industry, if you're talking about cookie cutters, something that has been done before, something that is fully qualified, that is tested, it also means lower cost for their investment because it's been done before. They don't have to perform all the testing again, all the qualification again. They already have something in the field operating that they know works, and it just has to be adjusted for their specific application.
So Anthony, how do you get a new product on the market if no one wants to be first?
Someone eventually will be first. That's the optimistic point of view, and we need to find that company. But I think it comes down to necessity. I think on the drilling side, we're certainly seeing the conventional kind of resources being produced in deep water now is kind of standard. So people are moving to harsh environments, to the likes of Mozambique, Canada, Arctic, and there's simply no choice. You know, as part of the long-term business plan, they have to explore and find oil in those regions. So we're seeing boundaries being pushed on the drilling side, and eventually someone will have to, out of business necessity, implement some new technology to stay alive. How close we are to that point across the board, I just don't know. We're certainly going in that direction, but that's what it's going to come down to. Someone is going to need this technology in order to make something viable.
Jeannie?
Well, I think what we've seen is that some of the smaller independents are more willing to take those risks. Of course, they look very hard at those risks, but they are sometimes beyond the edge of technology that's currently available. So, just for instance, when we introduced a brand new vessel that had never laid a pipe in beyond 3,000 meters, our biggest worry was, where would we find that client? Who would be the first? And we identified that perfect client, and it ended up being really exactly what we thought it would be, and it was an independent. And they were willing to take that jump with us because the technology was beyond the edge of what was currently available.
Does it involve maybe a discount for the first customer or so to get them across the line, or isn't money really important in that point? It's more surety.
Well, I think there has to be an equilibrium there. You have to cover your risk, you have to cover your costs, and work as a partner with some of these companies and have them understand where you're at and work with you towards that goal of bringing innovation online. I think some of the majors are coming around to that point of thinking, because that's the only way they can really reduce costs at this point in ultra deep water, is by taking on new technology and being open to innovation. And while we do know that the industry in general has been very conservative, I think it's changing. We think it's changing, or we would probably not be a player right now.
Tony, how do you advise your clients to take that step to something new?
I think as long as the risk is managed and you do enough technical due diligence, you can analyse the commerciality of it, but you need to ensure that it's a technical and operational success. I think the industry has been extremely conservative in the 30 years that I've been in business, from flexible pipes all the way through to survey technology. There's a lot of really good technology out there just now. We have carbon fibre pipe coming in, which is a fantastic development. Not a lot of pickup in the market at the moment, but I think that will happen. New survey technology, laser technology. We're moving into a different age, but I don't think that the customer specifications are moving at the same pace as the industry itself. and we need to embrace some of that technology and take some of the conservatism out, which might be a bad thing to say in this industry, but there's a lot of technology out there that could bring significant savings, both in terms of cost and schedule, and most likely improve quality and safety as well.
When you're looking, Bruno and Anthony, at new ideas and so forth, how much of it is you going to the customer with a new product, a new idea, and selling to them, and how much of it is the customer coming to you saying, we need to do this, what can you provide for us?
But most of the times I've seen we came to them with new technology, right? We invest, as you said, nobody wants to really be the first to invent that, and we recognize that. So we do end up having to do lots of the testing, lots of the proving and the showing. It's not, like I said, I've seen it's not enough just to tell them I have a solution that works. No, give me the job and I'll show you that. They want to see at least the testing or some backup that you did do your due diligence. Based on the codes, based on the industry code, based on their own internal specifications. So most of the times, when they come to us, okay, I have a need, do you have something that is qualified, or do you have something proven, or at least tested to this specification? Then yes, we'll come to them and offer and just present everything we got in-house.
I think the key part is to define the needs of the customer. With less activity in the industry, I think people have more time. Engineers have more time, and let's face it, innovation's cool. People like to do it. So I think people are more receptive now to have a meeting and talk about new ideas, and they've got the time to maybe investigate them more than they did. But Bruno's exactly right. I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to testing and how strict is that testing going to be, and how relevant is that testing going to be. And in order to get something adopted, we might have to operate a different business model. Like, it doesn't pay. You don't pay for it if it doesn't work. GE are providing BOPs, pay for our pressure control. It's a different business model. Unfortunately, some suppliers might be able to give things away, but to an operator, to a client, it might not mean that much, because the liability if it doesn't work is not just the 10 million they paid for it; it's the 100 million of lost production that they don't get. So it's a difficult sell, but certainly it's more receptive. And I think one of the key aspects of the survey was, customers are looking for suppliers to provide alternative solutions, and they're open to it at the moment. So, the industry is receptive to it, but it's getting it over the line is very difficult.
I've seen some clients like that as well, with that in the past they wouldn't accept a certain solution, that they're looking into it. Right? I have one product, for example, that I offered to a small independent client operator. They accepted, looked at our qualification, did not request additional testing. They did their due diligence, but accepted all the results that we showed them, whereas another operator came to at about the same time and didn't accept it at all, say no, it hasn't been used in the exact same condition, depth, temperature, pressures as mine, so it's not okay. But within the past year and a half, they're now considering, because it is a good solution and it's going to solve their, it's about the best, most optimized solution they can have for their application today. So they are considering it.
I see that very often. As independents, as you said, are more prepared to accept the qualifications done by the supplier, double check the API, double check by DNV. There's good due diligence, and the independents seem to be able to accept it. And that they have a risk profile. You go to the major IOCs, and then you get slapped with a specification that's 200 pages thick, and then you have to basically put extra cost and time into the schedule. I think as an industry we need to think about that. We need to think about how we can do things differently, both commercially, technically, operationally. It's clear that we need it if the oil price is going to stay at $50 a barrel. We need to do something different.
And I think we can say clients are very kind of project specific, and it's not the exact same, and that is changing. But I think on the supplier side there's an opportunity as well to not be project specific. So if you're qualifying something for a given project, a given condition, do a bit more marketing, understand is there going to be other projects similar, and if you have to up your condition, it might be a little bit more than the current project requires, but if it can serve 5 more on the back end, that data might be more acceptable to
and I think
suppliers.
What you can do is you could possibly say, well, I'm developing this product, and I think that it might be applicable to four companies right now. Why not invite those 4 clients at that point in time to your development and say this is what we're doing, so they get engaged. So it's much easier for them to accept that product, once you get the results. And I think that that's something that the suppliers need to think about as well. We need to be smarter about how we engage the clients.
Now, I want to pick up on one of the points you made about the survey, Anthony, which is that there's a bit of a contradiction in here, because one of the notes I made was that providing alternative solutions was seen as one of the top areas that needed improvement in the next 2 years, according to respondents. However, it wasn't ranked in the top 3 for valued supplier attributes. So is this just underlining the fear of the unknown here when it comes to suppliers thinking creatively about a specification?
Yeah, I think with the pressures to win work at the moment, suppliers want to meet the specification as accurately as possible at the lowest price. So there's a reticence to actually provide anything different, provide anything that isn't asked for. But I also think it's a timing thing. If we're talking about award stage and tendering stage, it's too late. It's too late to be talking about new solutions. I think the right time to be talking about new solutions is before all this, before the specifications put together, and really on the ground floor talking with clients about what their needs are and how we can meet those needs, so they're almost part of the specification when it comes out for tender. Because really, if we're trying to put a new solution on the table at the last minute, it's very difficult to get it through, because the specification is set, and we're talking about meeting that specification as a minimum, and then we're talking about price and delivery.
So, Tony, is it the job of the consultant, the advisor to the people writing the specifications, to actually maybe advise on loosening the terms to allow for more innovation?
I think that we should all be looking for innovation, and there's nothing to stop the suppliers making an alternate solution. And most suppliers that I've dealt with in the past tend to do that. They say, here's the specification and here's an alternate. It is difficult, however, to get that alternate in. There has to be significant advantage, both in terms of time, quality, and price. I would say that I think it's the operators and the suppliers need some common understanding of what the outcome is going to be, and shouldn't be building in extra cost and schedule. It's a common theme that I talk about, because that's where it happens in the industry. We tend to build that in all the time. I think what's been interesting is that there's been developments in the business whereby you're starting to see more one-stop shops, Technique, FMC, McDermott and GE with IO, and these are the guys that are trying to get in front of the client and say pre-feed, here's a solution, and this solution actually brings together an all-encompassing cradle to grave almost solution, which means that your OPEX cost is going to be less and your CAPEX might be less as well. And I think that that's where the focus needs to be. I think you need to be in front of the client, as I call it, and influencing the client at the pre-feed stage. And that's where the emphasis should be on from the suppliers to influence that, and from the operators. That's what I would say.
Now, does it come down to the risk aversion of just the fact that with safety, whatever happens, if I were a board of directors, on the board of directors, I don't want to do anything that risks me ending up in an orange jumpsuit in the pen, and therefore I'm going to be very, very risk averse about anything that might cause safety problems. Yeah. So it's not necessarily the saving of the $10 million leads to $100 million of lost production that you mentioned. It's more anything that might compromise safety that ends up in court.
But most, I would say, all suppliers are approved suppliers to the operators. You have to go through the approved vendor list, you have to go through vetting, you're supplying product, and that product is done to a certain standard, and you have a safety performance target that has to be met in order to stay on the AVL. So when somebody is buying a product, whether it's Technique buying a product from Trelleborg or BP buying a service from Technique, they have to be on the AVL list, which means that they're a competent contractor. And as a competent contractor, you have the systems, you have the competencies, you have the people, you have the processes, you have the technical knowledge to make alternate options. And as long as it has the due diligence in there, the technical due diligence, and you can sign off it from a risk perspective, then we should be considering these alternates. That's difficult at the moment, the way that the organisations are set up.
So, Jeannie, there really isn't an excuse on safety for companies not innovating.
No, safety comes first. I mean, that's our operating motto, and if we can do innovation and if we can provide technology and be safe about it, that's the only way. There's no compromise on that.
And other industries seem to manage it perfectly well.
And like you said, there is no compromise on that part. If we have any kind of that's the one thing on a project that I can't remediate. You can't really fix it. If you have a quality issue, you can fix it, you can manufacture it again. That doesn't go with safety. So yeah, we do have always, we'll only work with suppliers or sub-vendors or anybody who will know can deliver one, quality, of course, deliver a product and can be safe, and can meet our expectation, our clients. I think that's one of the easiest ways to burn your image and avoid future work, is if you're not diligent or not paying attention enough about the safety of the personnel and equipment.
Which is a huge opportunity for innovation. You know, I think people are more receptive to innovation in key areas such as safety. If you can make an operation quicker and more cost effective is one thing, but if you can make it safer, I think people are willing to pay for that. You know, it is a key focus of innovation. So in general for the innovation, you know, I think it is a timing thing. But we need the conversation early. We need the conversation, you know, right at the ground floor, to understand what the needs of the client are, and almost have it as their idea. You know, they know what the problems are, but you can give them tools and give them technologies available to them. But if you work as a partnership and you develop an idea together, it has a much higher chance of actually being used.